I'm here today with Dan,
O'Toole.
and we interviewed you, or I interviewed you,
Yes.
January of 2025. We're recording this interview in the winter of 2026. Since then, Arrive AI has gone public on the Nasdaq. You got to ring the bell on July 3rd of 2025. What was that like?
It was surreal. It was a whole lifetime, a culmination of a lifetime. Since I was a kid, I always wanted to take a company public, believe it or not. And so, to be able to realize that dream is just, it's like winning 10,000 lotteries.
And what is it like having your team with you? Because when I looked at the photos, I saw you had a team, and a lot of the people who were there when I interviewed you prior were also in that photo and were there with you in New York
Yeah.
City. What's it like to have team and leadership be with you through such a time? Because let's be real, it doesn't happen overnight to take a company public. Lots of regulations, lots of rules. What was it like to have your team there?
It's everything. I mean, not only do we have our team, we had our investor community. We had going, pre-public, we had 5,000 investors. So when we went out and rang the bell, we had 400 people with us. You want me to rephrase that?
Wow.
Yeah. You want me to say that again? Or are we keeping going?
No, we're keeping going.
Okay.
No,
All right.
I'm
I'm
just
sorry
like,
about
wow.
that. Okay. No,
That is,
we almost broke the.
I'm shocked. That's why I was
No,
silent.
no, we almost broke the Nasdaq. They couldn't even accommodate. We actually had talked to the Guinness Book of World Records because we felt like we could set a record with the most amount of people at a bell ringing ceremony for the Nasdaq. But the time it would have taken to get all that orchestrated with the Guinness people, we didn't want to miss our opportunity to go public as quick as we could. So we kind of let that go. But we did have 400 people there, which turned out to be one of the largest bell ringing ceremonies they've ever had.
Now, why did you decide to go with the NASDAQ over to the New York Stock Exchange? A lot of people, obviously, sad, a lot of people don't even know what either of those two things are that are walking around in the world, which is a shame. I think everybody should know about it. But what was kind of the reason for the NASDAQ more so?
Yeah, that's a good question. Really loyal guy, Midwest values, right? Indiana. So probably 3 years ago, the Nasdaq called me up when we were a small private company, and they said, "Hey, we're always researching what the next big thing is, and we think it's you guys." And they said, "When you go public, you're gonna have a choice: Nasdaq, New York Stock Exchange, London, all these different exchanges, right?" They said, "We hope you'll choose the Nasdaq." And then they gave me a shout out on the Nasdaq Tower, which is this iconic billboard in Times Square, New York, and it said, Nasdaq recognizes, Arrive, the next big thing, or something, something to that effect. That was very humbling and flattering. Nobody ever gets that opportunity as a private company. So as we grew and evolved, we had a few deals along the way where companies were trying to acquire us, or we were looking to go public, and every time the question came up, which exchange do you want to be on? I said the Nasdaq, all from the loyalty of what they did in that moment. And they sent us a picture, and if you look around some of the offices here, we all have a big blown up version of that picture in our offices. So it's pretty cool.
Amazing to hear, especially from Indiana. And then, kind of, two last things I wanted to ask is, what's the goal going forward now? Obviously, being on the Nasdaq, and being a publicly traded company, you have days where you're in the green, you have days where you're down. What's kind of the mission going forward?
The funny thing is when we went public, I said to myself, I'm not going to watch the daily, movement in the stock. But guess what? You can't help it, right? It really, the stock price has a bearing on everything you do, whether you're trying to acquire a company and use your equity as the currency of a transaction, if you're borrowing money, all these different things. There's a ton of elements that are all determined by dilution and share price. So I watch that every day. Plus, I own 72% of the company, so it's a big deal for me. And then going forward, we want to be in the next 5 years. My whisper aspiration is to either be acquired by one of the largest companies in the world or to be one of the largest companies in the world. And I'm fine either way. So that's what we're working toward every day.
And for you, what would you say is something that inspires you?
You know, I'm inspired every day by the people around me, what we're doing, executing on this IP that we were fortunate enough to beat Amazon by 4 days, on the Postal Service by 2 weeks, others by less than a month. The way the market is just accelerating around us, no 2 days are the same. Every day you come in, there's some new thing. One of the things that we say in this office a lot is there's more we don't know about what we're going to do than we do know, because the platform that we have in front of us is so wide open and so exciting. There's new use cases being developed every day.
Amazing to hear. And I always like to close interviews sometimes by asking 3 quick fireball questions. Not fireball shots. I always mention that and make that clear. There are no shots. But fireball questions. What is the best thing about being able to work in the tech sector?
You know, it's just developing new technology, changing lives, changing the way things are going to happen. You look back at like the cell phone, how that revolutionized everything. I think we're the next cell phone. We're going to have that kind of an impact on society, and that's just something that's priceless. Just to have your fingerprint on that.
What's your favorite car of all time?
The 1970 Plymouth Superbird, with the big wing on it. In fact, I have one. Color is called Limelight Green. I call it Arrive Green. This is our company color, and it's inspired by that actual car.
Wow. And one thing has been clear to me as somebody kind of on the outside interviewing you now for a second time, which I'm so grateful to have the opportunity. Green has stayed a color. You mentioned green just now. So my last fireball question, why green?
It's easy to say money, right? But it's not. It's not money. It's bold. It's positive.
Ecosystem?
It could be the ecosystem. It could be a lot of things, right? I mean, green kind of embodies a lot of things. Money, ecosystem, environment. But it's a bold, positive color. I like to make a bold statement, be aggressive, and that's all embodied in a 1970 Plymouth Superbird, which is a muscle car, probably the most iconic muscle car of all time, and that embodies what we're doing here at Arrive AI. So I thought that was just the appropriate color to pick.
Wow. Well, Dan, thanks for allowing me to interview you a second time. Always appreciate it, and great to be in the headquarters doing it today.
Jacob, love that you thought to come back, man. It means a lot to all your viewers out there too. Thanks for continuing to hear our story and want to know more about us. Ticker symbol ARAI on the Nasdaq. I just want to call your attention to one more thing, if I can. That plaque right there has our pre-public first 3,000 investors on it. I call us a We the People story, and everybody got a chance to sign that plaque with their own signature for them and their families, whomever they wanted to put on there, to designate and dedicate our first unit that we ever made. And so we're really proud of that.
Wow. Being here in person, seeing that plaque is an amazing story.
Yeah. Hey, a lot of pride around that. We've had some people that have passed away that are on there. There's just so much pride around that. And that's what this company is all about. And that's how we had 400 people at the Nasdaq. And we're going to ring the bell again, July 13th of 26 here. We're going to ring the closing bell. We've already got a ton of those people have already signed up to want to go back out. It was such a great experience.
Just amazing to hear. Well, thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you, Jacob. I really appreciate it, man. Great seeing you, man.